we have some that will sell black trauma for a check. Do you believe that that's what someone like 50 Cent is doing with this Diddy doc?
I don't think he is. I think that he had a story to tell. And I think he's had a story to tell for a very long time. And because of the verdict and the way things happen, he now has the space to tell that story. So I don't think 50 Cent is capitalizing on trauma porn or doing anything like that. I think that he is unpeeling another layer.
Welcome to Take Your Point Podcast. I'm John Dunson, joined by my lovely co-host who is in maroon today. Before we jump into today's episode, thank you guys for taking the time to listen to us. Also, thank you for commenting, sharing, and subscribing. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. Be clear to double click so you can get notifications when we drop a new episode. We're now on episode 20, and I am shocked that my co-host has devoted almost 28 hours to discussing so many different topics with me. Before we jump into that, Ms. Lynn, how was your week?
It's great. I accidentally went on a 3-hour hike yesterday, and so I'm relaxed, calm, and zen.
You being zen, it's something that I will never equate to you because you're high energy. That's what our listeners love about you, that you're always high energy and you have some of your favorites who love you. Today's episode, we're going to cover the theme of Black equity, specifically the bag versus the ballot. There were a couple of things that jumped out and caught my attention over the last couple of days. But I want to start with Pharrell Williams and something that he said about 2 weeks or so ago. Specifically, Mr. Williams, those of you who do not know Pharrell Williams, he is a record executive who has blessed the culture with the numerous hits. He has been very instrumental in creating a lot of catchy tunes. One of my favorite tunes of his is one that the late great John Lewis made famous called Happy. The other one is Snoop Dogg's Drop It Like It's Hot. And so we knew Pharrell Williams up until a couple years ago for his music acumen, and he is very talented. But about 3 years ago, Mr. Williams, who has a very different style of dressing, was tapped to be the creative director for Louis Vuitton, the fashion brand. Mr. Williams was on a panel maybe 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about Black folk not paying too much attention to politics. He doesn't get involved in politics because, as he says, do you want to be in the room because you're Black or because you're the best person? And he got a lot of flack for that. Are you familiar with what transpired with Mr. Williams and what he said?
I am a little familiar with it, yes.
And I want to start with the politics of it, because the politics of it bothers me from the standpoint that over the last couple of years, you've had a lot of Black men who have checked out politically, and they've treated it as, okay, it doesn't really matter whether or not you're voting for a Democrat or Republican. They're all bad, and we're going to get screwed anyway. And the echo of what Mr. Williams said marries up to how it is that we see a lot of Black men reacting with respect to politics. So I took issue with that. But the other thing that bothers me is it was suggested that it doesn't really matter if you vote or not. What say you about that?
I understand the sentiment because politics today is very disappointing. And I have to agree to some extent that it doesn't matter which political party you ascribe to, they are all problematic. And I get that part. I get wanting to say, you know what, I'm just checking out because they're all horrible and why should I do anything? The challenge I have and the problem I have is that when you do nothing, you're doing something. So if you're saying there's inequity in our communities, like our schools are not getting what they need, we're not getting access to fresh food, we don't have access to health care, and you're not doing anything, that's a problem. Now, I will say this about Pharrell. I appreciate that he gives back to the communities, like the I Am Other initiative that he has, and these social programs that he has for Latinx and for Black Americans. That he's not just saying, I'm checking out and then good luck to you. Now, may the best person win. He's saying, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to put my resources into something else. So for people like myself or other people that are like, I'm not going to participate in politics. I'm not going to participate in the political agenda. If you want change, you're going to have to do something else. I'll give you an example for myself. One of the things that I wanted to do before I had the first boy, I was like, you know what? I want a girl. I'm going to be a big sister. I never turned in the paperwork. And I was like, I'm never picking this girl up. I'm not going to do that. So if you're going to say something, if you're going to say, I'm going to opt out of here, but I'm going to still complain, you have to do something, whether it's volunteering, making your services available to underrepresented groups, something. What you can't do, and what the problem I have is you saying that I'm checking out of the political arena. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to continue to complain. And then I'm going to play a lottery. Like, what? That's nothing.
Yeah, I take your point there. The problem I'm having is if we look at the political system, a couple of points. One, you have what's going on right now with the rollback of DEI. You have a lot of these corporations who are real big in terms of DEI and creating opportunities in theory for individuals who were underrepresented in the corporate arena or in certain spaces. And it seems to me that what we're seeing is a rollback with respect to these companies doing away with DEI positions. So when you check out politically on as you said, you're making a choice, and that choice is going to allow individuals who are voting to get in office and enact laws that are going to benefit them and disproportionately impact you. So that's the point that I have against what Mr. Williams said with respect to being apathetic to politics.
Again, you have to do something. And so I'm not going to tell people you have to vote, you have to participate. It's extremely disappointing that you don't, because the fundamental problem I have is that if you have an underrepresented group, and a lot of times the kids that are in that group, they don't have the mentors and they don't have a pathway to choose something else. So if you have a Pharrell that's very successful, has nice clothes, just all of these material nice things, presents well, everything's great. If you have an impressionable person in an underrepresented group that sees that and they're like you said, they admire him, and he's saying to them, don't worry about the politics, which can impact your community and help get you the equitable things to help you succeed. Don't worry about it. When they see that, sometimes the only pathway for them to obtain the things that he has are not great. And it continues to have this cycle of violence, whatever you want to call it, or maybe I'm the only one calling that, but it continues this cycle, right? And so if you want to break that cycle, either you go into those communities and you show those kids a different way and you actually create pathways for them. You encourage them to vote. You can't just do one thing and then say, okay, now good luck to you, kiddo. Pull your bootstraps up and get on with what? Like, what is the what? I don't know what the what is.
Yeah, I take your point there. I guess the struggle that I'm having is if you have young Gen Z, which you know I love, and I say that sarcastically, who are talking about not voting or being apathetic with voting, and they don't vote. We talked a couple of weeks ago about gentrification and about communities being lost. And I know that you traveled recently to Tulsa. And I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago where you had the Netflix movie that came out that was about Tulsa.
That was on HBO, talking about the Watchers.
And it was Regina King. And you think about Tulsa in the early 1900s and how Black Wall Street was being developed because it was circulating those dollars within the Black community. But if you're not voting and you're not then representing or identifying and voting for individuals who look like you run the risk of being displaced out of those communities. And you have things that are happening right now in the state of Texas where you have the redistricting. So the individuals who are in Congress enacting laws don't look like you or don't have the same values or place the same value system on certain things that you may. I think the issue becomes twofold. One, you're being apathetic with respect to thinking that both parties are the same. Two, you're not voting for representatives that look like you and they're displacing you outside of the community. So you're not getting the resources that you need to create better opportunities for yourself and for your kiddos. How do you square that with what you just said in terms of individuals being sort of apathetic and saying both parties?
Okay, so a couple of things I want to point out. First, I'm going to just do the low-hanging fruit. Voting someone that looks like you is not always to your advantage. And I will take your great Tim Scott, for example. I won't be voting for Tim Scott. I don't give a shit how black he is. He could be blackety black. It ain't happening. So you always have to, if you want to vote someone that looks like you still have to do homework. You still have
Okay.
to look and see what is this person standing for. The color of their skin doesn't mean they align with your same values. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second was I did go to Tulsa and I went into the Greenwood area. Now, there's something about that. And when I was talking about giving back to the community and pouring into impressionable kids. And I don't know if this is because of the revitalization of that area or what it was. I'm going to give you an example. So I went to Alcatraz once and I went into one of the cells and I was like, I can't do this. The energy there, the trauma was palatable. Like you could just feel the trauma. So I juxtapose that against going to Tulsa and walking the streets in that neighborhood of Greenwood. I could feel the freedom. I could feel and see the kids just going through that community and everyone recognizing them and them having this sense of safety and knowing that there was a pathway because you're seeing bankers, lawyers, doctors, business owners that look like you and they're within that community. It's not something that you're seeing on TV that's not attainable. It was something that was contained in that community and it was so tangible. I could touch these people. I could have these conversations with these people. These people can guide me. And so I felt all of that. So I went into the museum, which if you have a chance to go to the Tulsa Museum, oh my God, 100% recommend it. I guess it was created in 2021. They did a fantastic job, but it takes about an hour to go through. It's really well done. But it was talking about just how the riot, as they wanted to call it, and the more of a massacre because of the things that they did were outrageous. But then I started reading through some of the things and I was like, wow, a lot of the stuff that they did during that time is being replicated now, how we're using the military against our own people. We may not, hopefully not get to the point where we're actually bombing communities. I wouldn't put it past it, but even like the redistricting, it is done so that we don't have those opportunities to create wealth and pathways to success, in my opinion, for less represented people. And then when you say, oh, I'm not going to opt out of politics, okay, that's why you don't have anything in your community because you're not voting for people that have your best interest. I'm not going to say that all of them do, and I'm not going to say they were 100% aligned to you, but you have to do your work. Otherwise, you are a victim. You can't continue to be a victim and whine. You pick a lane. You're a whiner and sit over there and don't talk to me, or you do something.
Yeah, I take your point there. I think, again, taking shots at the great state of South Carolina with Tim Scott.
I'm not taking a shot. I'm just calling it like it is. You produce that and own it. Just like your rice, you got Tim Scott. You can't have one without the other.
Oh, this is true. So you made a good point there with respect to ownership and the ballot, and more importantly, making certain that we are voting for individuals who are aligned with us philosophically. And so that's not to say that every entertainer, whether it's Pharrell Williams or Halle Berry or anyone else, may say something you disagree, but just be cognizant of that when you're giving credence to these celebrities. The other part about the Pharrell Williams, and when we talk about the ballot aspect, is the bag. And for Mr. Williams, the creative director for Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuittons, the last I checked, are pretty damn expensive. And there's a disconnect there when you're a creative director for a luxury brand and you're getting paid and you secured your bag for you to then tell individuals who may not ever see wealth that you've seen that they do not have to vote or that they should be apathetic about voting. You take that, then you juxtapose that with someone like 50 Cent, who has done tremendous things with respect to entertainment. Recently, he came out with this Sean Diddy Combs documentary that has been the talk of the culture for the last week or so. Have you had an opportunity to partake of the documentary?
No, I haven't, because I'm done with Diddy and his deeds that are done dirt cheap. I will get into it.
Didn't you go buy some Diddy oil or
I
something?
don't need any Diddy oil. It's humid here. I'm fine. But before we get into that, let me just say this. When you talked about Pharrell and him acquiring the bag, he does
Mhm.
do initiatives, like I said, that feed back into the community. It may not be to the extent or as visible as other people, but he does do those things. Why can't I? There are two different groups. And like you said, two things can be true. I can do my job and I can
Mhm.
secure my bag, and then I can have my, what is it, Dunkin' Donuts in my fancy zip code, and then I can still support the community. I can do two things. I'm
Mhm.
not just one thing. So he does do that. And I'm not going to disparage this man because he is the creative director of Louis Vuitton. Good for you.
Okay, so I misspoke when I said I thought it's actually $1 million bag from
Care
Louis
if it's
Vuitton.
$2 million. Somebody's buying the bag and good for them. So he's marketing and doing his job. And I'm not, again, as a capitalist, I'm concerned and confused by your whole take on this. You love capitalism.
I
However,
do.
you do it. You love
I do.
that's part of
I do.
capitalism. So there's somebody that's buying that $2 million bag, and I'm not going to decide I'm going to work at the Walmart because it makes Johnny sad that I made all this money. So what? I don't care how much money you make. That good for you.
So let me ask you this, because he did talk about the working class, and the comment that got him in trouble was, or at least got the culture upset, was when he made the comment that, did you want to be known for being a black person and being invited to the table, or earning your seat at the table with respect to your skill set? Part of the issue with Pharrell Williams even getting the job a couple years ago, when he got the job as creative director for Louis Vuitton, individuals looked around like, what are his qualifications to be the creative director of a fashion house? Because he did not grow up in the fashion ranks. He jumped individuals who had put in the work, put in the reps, and he got it because he was a name. So for him to sit there and make that statement was like, dude, okay, you do not see the hypocrisy here. What
I
say
hear
you
what
about
you're
that?
saying. We don't have all the data points. We have what has been put out. We don't know, just because he didn't grow up in that doesn't mean that he doesn't have the skill set, right? So we know there are
True.
people that started painting at 50 and they're amazing.
Mhm.
We know people that didn't get their start in entertainment until later in life and they're amazing. Just because you didn't grow up and you don't have the nepotism or whatever it is, acquire this, you don't have the name, doesn't mean that you don't
Mhm.
have the ability. So I don't know that. I'm not going to speak to his ability and if he was more qualified than someone else. I don't know that. I think it's
Good point.
easy and it's, like I said, low hanging fruit to talk about the color of his skin is the reason why he got it. I think that that is lazy. But if people
Mhm.
want to be lazy, I love diversity. Good for you. I think that there's more to it. And so for him to say, and I understand what he said because I've said something similar. Do I want to go to the
Mhm.
table because I'm a black woman or because I earned it? I think that everybody at their core wants to earn their place at the table. The
Mhm.
challenge we have with that is that this world doesn't support that all the time. So because we have the system set up that sometimes it's stacked against us as black people, whether it's inherent, it's explicit or implicit bias, sometimes to our detriment. So whether we say, yes, I just want to do this on my own merit, I studied for this and I should get it, that doesn't always make it so. It doesn't make it so because you are fighting against other people's biases and their assumptions of where you should be because of the color of your skin.
You make some good points, and again, I take your point. Doubling back on the 50 Cent thing, because I want to dig deep here, because it touches on something we talked about in the last episode with respect to the influencers and how it is that we have some that will sell black trauma for a check. Do you believe that that's what 50 Cent is doing with this Diddy doc?
I don't. I didn't look at it, but I don't think he is. I think he had a story to tell. He's had a story to tell for a very long time. And because of the verdict and the way things happened, he now has the space to tell that story. So we can think about that Me Too movement and what happened with that. There were several people, women, men, that had stories to tell. The way that it unfolded, the world allowed them a stage to tell the stories. I don't think 50 Cent is capitalizing on trauma porn or doing anything like that. I think that he is unpeeling another layer. And so for people like me, they were like, we need to look at the law. The law is the law. He's like, well, there are other things that couldn't be brought into a criminal suit that maybe would have been brought into a civil suit that would have convicted him at a lot of these different things. And he's telling the story. And I think that as a storyteller, good for you. Why would you not tell it?
So the other thing that fascinates me about that is it seems to me that the things that we get an opportunity to showcase or the spaces that we get an opportunity to shine and get a bag do a lot of detriment to the culture. What say you about that? And by that meaning that if we're talking about health disparities, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, where you're talking about certain things that are pushed in the culture, it may not be in our best interest to partake of them to the extreme.
Okay, so a couple of things. You do test that. Sometimes I do want to go get that bottle of vodka out of the freezer, like, let me make it through this. Lord have mercy. So that's that. And then in terms of celebrities producing content and then people being influenced by it, that's what I heard from you.
Yeah, even with your favorite producer, Tyler Perry, and I know how you just love Tyler Perry's movies.
I like some of Tyler Perry's movies. Some of them I take issue with. Like I couldn't do that Black Beauty only because of Kimmy's eyelashes. Girl, if you don't go to Lily Lash and get some eyelashes, like what are you doing? It's $5. Anyway, I digress. So let me just say this. It is not, in my opinion, the responsibility of storytellers and creatives to impact and influence someone's life. A couple of things. And I know that people's, they grow up in different environments.
Hold on. Before you said that, I want to push back though. You just said a couple of minutes ago that if you are Reggie in the hood or Reggie in a low socioeconomic situation and you hear or see something from someone like Pharrell, and this is the only avenue that you know to get out of your situation, then these individuals are going to have more impact on you than a black dentist or a black barber or whomever else.
Okay.
Because they're telling you, if Diddy is selling his Diddy oil along with vodka, that's what you're seeing.
So I know that I'm probably going to get myself in trouble. I have to be, and I'm trying to be more aware of my upbringing versus the rest of the world, because I do understand late in life that there could be some differences in the way I grew up and other people. But when your family and your parents held accountable for the things that you value and your pathway in life, help me to understand when that comes into the equation. Why, as a celebrity, do I take precedent over your parents and your family? When did that happen?
I think you sound very Republican in that comment.
I don't care what I sound. You say, American people, I want the government out of my life. Like you got too much influence. Okay. So you're going to allow a celebrity to have influence in your life?
Yeah,
when are you going to step up as a parent and say, that's not the way things go in this house?
Look, I'm not saying
you're laughing right now because you can't wait for the comments to come in. I say, bring it.
I'm not saying you should abdicate your responsibilities as a parent. But yes, you and I were both blessed where we grew up in a household that had two parents that were there day in, day out.
Even if you have one parent, you still have a responsibility to raise that child and not have Pharrell Williams raising your child or Diddy and his oils raising your child.
Yes, but we also live in a culture right now where kids are being influenced by a lot of things.
Okay, so help me to understand, because there's more content, there are more stations other than ABC, NBC, CBS, and
they're watching Google, they're watching TikTok, they're watching.
Okay. Who's paying for the TikTok? How'd they get a phone? How are they paying for that service? What are they doing? How did this happen?
So
what I hear you say as a parent, I just have these kids, rogue kids out there, and I'm just like, I can't handle them. Like, this 4-year-old is out here with his credit all jacked up, and I don't know what's going on.
So there are stories, yes. If you are an individual and you do a lot of online shopping, I was getting ready to download an app on my Android, because I do Android.
Yes, Luddite, I know.
So I was downloading this app, getting ready to download the app on my Android. And it asked me for specific login information and biometrics, and for me to put in a passcode and all that, so that for future reference, if I wanted to purchase something, then I could just fingerprint.
Did you see?
Once they asked me that, I was like, well, why would I want to do that? And I don't even have kids that young. But I'm saying, if you're a parent and you've seen the stories where a parent had left his or her information into the Amazon, and they wake up and they got like 20,000 boxes from Amazon because the kid had gone in and ordered some stuff.
Yes.
That happens. So these kids are more technologically savvy, I believe, than we are. I have a little nephew, and 5 years ago, he introduced me to this Roblox. So, as a part of one of the Christmas jaunts that I make to South Carolina, we went and got him a Roblox box, right? Roblox
Yes,
card.
John.
So he can
It's just like you're
upload.
educating people that already know these things.
Well, I didn't know
I
that.
know
So,
you did. There's so many things you don't know outside of your house, like just Target,
hold on,
Walmart. Like what? What are these things?
hold on. Let me say this. So the interesting thing was apparently in Canada, I believe it is, now kids, in order to get on the internet, they have to be of a certain age. And I'm thinking about the fact that, okay, what would happen if we did that in the United States, and how it is that you have some communities that would be impacted by this more than other communities? Because, yes, to your point, these kids do have access to some things that we did not have, and those parents aren't as invested as Lynn was with her two
Okay,
kiddos.
so a couple of things that Lynn has to say about her two kiddos. The first one was the oldest actually bought $200 worth of movies within 2 minutes because he figured out the algorithm to Apple. I'm like, what? And even the Apple person didn't know how he did it. So yes, they are technologically advanced. That's one thing. Second thing I'll say about the phone. So I had this rule that the kids couldn't have cell phones until they were 13, 14 years old. Like we don't need it. You're fine, whatever. So the youngest wants a cell phone. And I was like, you don't need a cell phone. He's like, well, if I put together a business proposal, would you consider it? Of course I would. And during that time, he was going to school, and then he went to this after school program. This is going to show what a poor parent I am. So the school kept calling. I was in meetings, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what in the world? There is no after school program today. So I don't know where the little one is because he doesn't have a cell phone. I didn't realize that it was a holiday. So where's my kid? So the little one decides in his business proposal at 12 that he's going to put that as a data point. And you left me. Okay, dude, you got a cell phone. You got it. So I understand what you're saying, that some communities, they need that. But I also think that there are precautions that we can do as a society and as parents to prevent access to some things, right? So you can have phone, and there are apps and there are phones like now are just dedicated to, you can call out to these people. You can do just certain searches on your browser. You can limit that, but it's going to take intentionality and it's going to take purpose in order to do that. So another thing with the kids is they loved Roblox. They were all into that. And my kids are 20, so it's been around for a long time, John. But I was like, you will not be accepting friend requests from the Dateline killer. Like, they're not coming to this house because, again, daughter of Marine, I carry mace and I live in Texas. It won't end well for you. Come over if you want to. There's certain things that you can't do. And then, like, for the youngest one, he is in film, so he produced all these little films. And I said, you can have it on YouTube, but you can't have it public, because I just don't feel that you're mature enough to accept some of the comments that come in. And to be honest, I was right, because I can't accept some of the comments that come into me. But I'm just saying that we have to be intentional. And I understand that there are some communities where having access to the internet and having access to a phone can be a matter of safety and equity. But we have to be intentional on how we're using that and how we're setting things up. An open source thing where they can just get into everything, I just don't believe in it. And I'm also not a free range parent. I'm a very helicoptery parent with lots of gas.
Yes. So you made a good point about the digital aspect, because I think that's where we can split the difference between the ballot and the bag. The problem I think we face with the Black culture is, and we talked about this, we talked about digital redlining. And one of the things that, if you are shopping in your neighborhood and your neighborhood is affluent, and I'm shopping in my neighborhood and I'm less affluent, I'm going to get a different price than you are. What surprised me as we developed this podcast and we spend more time on the internet, that you have suppression of content specifically that is geared toward people of color. If you go on Twitter now, you'll see Black content creators that are creating some of the best content that we're seeing get sticky with respect to social media. Their content is being suppressed, and individuals who may look a certain way, their content is getting elevated. And so now these Black creators are migrating over to Black owned social media spots where they feel more comfortable, like a Spottable, like
Blue
what's the
Sky.
other one?
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky is not Black owned.
Oh.
But
Well, it seems like it was color because it was blue.
I sell that to say you have these Black creators that are moving toward Black owned social media platforms.
John, may I interrupt you? Could you give me an example of a content creator that fits that description that you just said, that didn't feel like their content was being elevated? Because I really want to understand this. I think it's important for us to understand real live cases or real examples and not just say things that, can be controversial. So help me to understand.
I think we can talk specifically about a couple of young African American influencers who developed some fashion pieces or some fashion slang terms. It came out about 1.5 years or 2 years ago that they had been using and had gone viral in terms of the social media space. But she did not get the recognition until a white creative took what she did, purposed it for her channel, and it became sticky. And so the origin of the term, the origin of what happened was regulated to the B side, whereas you had this person who did not look like her, who was making a lot of money on the back of something that she had created.
And I think that we see that. Thank you so much for doing that. I think we see that play out in different spaces. I see it play out at work. And I think I've said this before, that I'll say something or I'll create a piece of something, nothing happens. My counterpart will change the font and then be like, here you go. I'm not the type of person that'll be like, oh, that happened. No, I'm going to tell you. But I think that does happen a lot. It has happened with our podcast, like some of the thumbnails that we've used, and how depending on what the thumbnail looks like, it can get traction. I wonder if I can say this because it's on YouTube. I'm saying it anyway, that I think that there is some merit to that. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what the algorithm is. I don't know that, but I do believe that even doing A/B testing with our podcast, that there could be something.
Yeah, I think that the big concern that I have is if you are creating content and that content is being suppressed, then what that's doing is if you're developing a story or if you're covering a topic and Lynn's position is down low on the algorithm poll, and someone else who has similar position but said it after you is higher, then that person is going to get all the visibility. You're not going to get any because it's not elevating your voice. And I get it. I understand it. The problem is you have now a lot of the Black entertainers and specifically a lot of the Black content creators who are saying, we're not going to play that game anymore. And so we're going to take our content and we're going over to this Black. The point is you have digital creators who are creating content that is being, for lack of a better term, stolen by other creators. And so they're moving to different platforms. The other part that I think it's probably more problematic is if we are removing ourselves from the Twitters, from the Blue Skies, are we then lessening our voices with respect to how it is that we are being covered?
And that's exactly where I was going to. So I understand the need for safety and to protect your intellectual property. And so you move it over to spaces that allow you to do those things. However, when you do that, you don't have the amplification of a X or a Instagram or whatever it is. You don't have that. And it also limits your ability to monetize your content. So then it becomes a financial constraint for you as well. So there's several things that are not to your advantage by doing that. I think that we go back to politics with this, that those are some of the things that young creators, any type of creator, should be thinking about when you're voting, because the government actually can impact that. they can impact it where you can get copyright and IP on your content. And so that if someone says it, then you get paid for it. Those are things that the government could actually help you with if you would pay attention. It's not just about, they're going to put 10 books into my school, or they're going to take away the Department of Education. There are things that are local and important to you that the government can impact.
Yeah, I agree with you and take your point on that. I think we have to think about who it is that we're listening to help influence us from a political standpoint. I think we have to think about what it is and how it is that we are reacting with respect to our dollars and how it is that we're spending our dollars. More importantly, how it is that we are allowing our dollars to be spent on resources that may be promoting stereotypes that we may not be the most comfortable with. Going back to your good friend Marcus last week that spent money, on what he spent money on instead of paying his rent, or buying that $1 million Birkin bag or $1 million Louis Vuitton bag when, you're not voting. And then lastly, the digital divide, and allowing our kiddos to be raised by Roblox or some other digital instrument, as opposed to, as you say, spending time with them and really monitoring what it is and how it is that they are using the internet.
Don't know anything about Roblox. Roblox is actually really good for logic, and you can transfer those skills over to math and to other spatial disciplines. So it actually is very educational.
I didn't say it
I don't
wasn't
know anything
educational.
about
I
it, but
think you
here's
have
the
the
thing. And what I want to make sure that we're, at least, I don't know if we agree on this, but my take is there's individual responsibility. If you don't want people treating you like a slave, stop acting like one. And so take accountability for yourself, take action, and stop trying to say that everybody is oppressing you when you haven't done anything.
I don't know if I agree with.
So now that we agree, let's move on.
I don't know if I agree with any of that. Because that's a hill that you're going to have to die on by yourself.
I'm not going to be dying on it by myself. I know at least one person is going to agree with me.
Yes, he's probably going to agree with you, and he's going to be like, "Hey, believe that Lynn had the nerve to say this." The economic power issue versus the political defense issue. I think that is something that is going to be the story of 2026, because we are faced with an economy that's not functioning for a lot of us. At the same time, we do have an election coming up in 2026 where we get the opportunity to vote with our ballots. And so the question becomes whether or not Black folk are going to represent and show up and vote for individuals who are going to be more receptive to the advancements of the issues that we care about. I think that's the important thing. The other thing that I wanted to do was some type of call to action. Let's do this. So from a politics standpoint, we know what it is and how it is that Project 2025 and things like that are impacting the Black community with the DEI rollbacks and other things. But there are things that you can do within your communities that will allow you to understand how we address the issues that are being rolled out with Project 2025. NAACP has this thing called our 2025 Toolkit, and we are going to link that in the episode show notes that will allow you to download what the NAACP has outlined in terms of how it is that we can address some of the issues that are being rolled out with respect to Project 2025. Last week, we also talked about you taking that 25% or $25 or $100, and instead of purchasing $100 of makeup in Sephora, taking that $25 and spending it on a Black brand. So what did you buy Black this week, if anything?
That's crickets. Okay. I didn't buy anything this week. That's not true. So when I was at the museum, I bought a sweatshirt and I bought a book on the Tulsa massacre. That's Black.
Okay, so let's do that. Because we brought up Pharrell Williams, and I know that you like luxury items. Do you have a Louis Vuitton?
I don't care about purses. You know what I care about? Shoes and makeup.
Okay. What is the shoes that have the red bottom? What are those?
Louis Vuitton. What is it? Christian, whatever. Louboutins, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So instead of you buying those Louboutin shoes, why don't we take a portion of that and we're going to expand that by Black thing, right? And there's a website called buyblack.us, and we're going to link that in the show notes as well. And instead of you spending $800 on your bottom shoes,
I wish it was 800. Go on.
we buy a discount pair, maybe last year's version. Yes, you can do that, right?
Oh, wait.
Right?
I'm sorry. They're still the same brand. You're not talking about like some kind of, like you go down to Canal Street and I'm going to get, like I'm not doing Canal Street and then I'm walking and the next thing you know, my red bottom shoes turn green. Like I'm not doing that. What are you asking me to do?
No, I'm saying instead of you buying the 2025 version, by the 2023 or
I can do that.
version.
I can. What is this site again?
It's buy black, BY black, BLACK.US. And from that, purchase something from some black-owned creatives or black-owned fashion designers.
As long as it's not a knockoff from Canal Street. Yes, I'm with you.
Okay. And then the third thing that we want you to do, and this is selfishly, this is going to benefit us. We talked about Spottable, and that is spelled SPOUTIBLE. If you don't have a Spottable account, create one. And then while you're creating that Spottable account, we want you to hashtag I Take Your Point podcast. And so that's building our communities where we're having conversations, and the conversations with respect to our shows, the themes that we're covering in our shows, you're then reinforcing that with respect to your chat groups and things of that sort. So those are your three, that is your call to action for this week. So again, make certain that instead of Miss Lynn buying those 2025 versions of her Louboutin shoes, she's getting the 2020. You know what? For you, get the 2021 version. Get the 4 years.
You sound crazy. Move on.
Get the 2020. Get the versions from previous years, so you don't have to buy 2025 or 2026. Spend that money on a black-owned business. 2, with respect to Project 2025, understanding that we're seeing a lot of Project 2025 coming down the pike, but go to the NAACP website and download our Project 2025, and that gives you the toolkit with respect to how it is that we can combat that aspect. And then thirdly, selfishly, we want you to sign up for a Spottable account and then hashtag I Take Your Point podcast. And then also hashtag I'm Team John. Okay.
So
if you want to hashtag,
you really do smell crazy.
If you want to hashtag I'm Team Lynn, that's fine. But that's our ask for today. Lynn, what do you have planned for this week?
A lot. You?
Okay. Not a lot. I need to put up a Christmas tree. I did put up a big black Santa, which is interesting to say the least. We'll put up a Christmas tree. I need to buy one today, and because I don't like the fake Christmas trees, I like to get the real one, and watch the dogs as they run in there and try to pee on it while no one is looking. Anyway, we used to have one that would go in. It was a French bulldog, and he would go in and sleep under the Christmas tree because he liked the lights that were on the Christmas tree. They kept him warm. His name was Lump, and he was one of my favorite dogs. But anyway, that is my plan. Okay. Guys, thank you again for taking the time to spend some time with us today. We hope that you enjoyed our episode. Be so kind, if you're not subscribed, to subscribe, like, share. We've had fun having these discussions with you. As you can be doing with your time, but we're glad you spent some time with us. While you're out and about doing your holiday shopping this week, make the time to do something nice for yourself. And while you're at it, take the time to do something nice with someone else.
Thanks for tuning in to another lively conversation on I Take Your Point. This podcast is a production of the SME LLC Media Group. All rights reserved. If you are enjoying the show, hit the subscribe button in the top right corner. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and check out past episodes. Until next time, take care and be well.